Good afternoon, Facebook. Welcome to this week's Ask Schellie segment. Hello, Instagram. Thank you for tuning in to this week's Ask Schellie segment. It is 12 o'clock. We're going to go ahead and get started. My name is Schellie Fanfan, and I am your emotional intelligence expert. I am the CEO and founder of Ask Schellie Consulting, LLC, where we bring corporations and other business entities to their next level, to their peak performance through the provision of psychoeducation. We are going out and we are helping to increase the emotional intelligence quotient of leaders so they understand how to resolve conflict, how to bring their businesses to the next level, how do they motivate their teams to operate in peak performance, training and development, how to combat microaggressions, so much. I love what I do. I'm a licensed psychotherapist here in the state of Florida, and I am privileged to work with the ages of 2 to 99, providing interdisciplinary psychotherapeutic interventions. All that to say, I am a therapist. And through a therapeutic alliance with individuals who sign up, who commit their lives to engaging in therapy, I partner with them as a professional, as an expert in the field, to get them to a place where they learn the skill set needed to overcome their emotional disturbances. That is what I do. Every Tuesday at 12 o'clock, I have the privilege and the opportunity to share a question that is asked of me. Therapists all the time, my fellow peers say it all the time, people always have lots of questions. Humans are intriguing. We want to learn more about human beings, right? And so I take this opportunity to share those questions with you all, and in hopes, with the intention that the new information will be something that you could add to your wellness toolbox, information that you could share with a loved one, information that could benefit your own personal life. So I do appreciate your shares, and most importantly, your feedback. I don't want to present before crickets, so I need your feedback. Let me know who you are, where you're from. Let me know your response to the question. You may have a perspective. You may have an experience or know someone that experienced it. I want to hear your feedback. You guys are part of my consultation team. And so we will be consulting together to help the listener with whatever their issue is. And so I'm going to go ahead and get started. And I'm going to read the question. Are you ready? All right. Dear Ask Schellie, I am not sure if this is an appropriate platform to ask this, but I have been silent and embarrassed for so long. I wanted to use this safe outlet to ask for your feedback on my issue. I defecate when I'm intimate with my husband, and I want it to stop. My husband says that it bothers me more than it does him, but I do not believe him. It does not happen all of the time, but it does happen most of the time, especially when I orgasm. Good for you. It is actually worse when I climax. The pooping is not the worst of our issues, though. She said pooping. That wasn't my word, okay? The pooping is not the worst of our issues, though. The major problem now is I try to avoid sex at all costs because I am tired of having to deal with everything we need to do before and after sex to address restoring our personal space. What are your thoughts? That was the question. Hello, TJ Legacy, my partner. This is my co-facilitator. Thank you so much for logging in and joining our live today. I will be repeating the question again because I want to make sure all of you know what you're responding to. I want your feedback. Let me know what you think. What is your expert response? And I will provide my response as well. It may not be an answer, but it's definitely a perspective. All right, here we go. Dear Ask Schellie, I'm not sure if this is an appropriate platform to ask this, but I have been silent and embarrassed for so long. I want to say to this writer, Thank you for being so brave to write in. You say that you're not sure if this is an appropriate platform. This is what this platform is for. People have questions, they email their questions, they write in, and I randomly choose the question to share on this platform. It is an appropriate platform. I'm just providing a perspective. What this is not appropriate for is treatment. As I say before, treatment it's a journey. It's a person who is accepting the liability of treatment, a person who has committed to the process, has provided informed consent to engage in a therapeutic journey with a licensed professional. And so this platform is not for that, and it's in no way an attempt to replace that process. So this is not treatment, but definitely an appropriate platform to share an issue and to get some feedback. She says, I wanted to use this safe outlet to ask for your feedback on my issue. Is it a safe outlet? Well, we're broadcasting your question to the world, right? This is social media, but no one knows who you are. And so that confidentiality is safe. I defecate when I'm intimate with my husband and I want it to stop. My husband says that it bothers me more than it does him, but I do not believe him. It does not happen all of the time, but it does happen most of the time, especially when I orgasm. It is actually worse when I climax. The pooping is not the worst of our issues, though. The major problem now is I try to avoid sex at all costs because I am tired of having to deal with everything we need to do before and after sex to address restoring our personal space. I'm not really sure what that means. I'm assuming that means like washing of the sheets and getting cleaned and bathing and all those other things that may have to take place after defecating in bed. What are your thoughts? All right, Instagram, Facebook, what are your thoughts? Hello, Alana. Thank you for joining in. Thank you, Danielle, for joining in. I would love to hear your feedback, guys, on this. What are your thoughts? Let me know what your thoughts are. So she asked me, what are my thoughts? And I need more information. Those are my thoughts. I need more information. I had a conversation with one of my advisors earlier and was talking about how sometimes it is so difficult to even provide a perspective because there's so much information needed to provide an accurate response to people. And that's what the diagnostic process is in treatment. When you start therapy, you're not going to jump into the work part of therapy. There is a diagnostic process, an assessment process. We're going into your history. We're trying to find out your family history of mental illness and physical illness and trauma and how you were raised and what your thought process is and what are your regrets and what motivates you. There's so much that goes into truly understanding the person before entering into a therapeutic journey. So when I have these questions and it lacks so much information, I feel like I can only provide a super general response. And so I'd like to know if this person has gone to the doctor. Have you ruled out all type of medical issues? Do you have a history of trauma? What is are you on medication? Are you on medication for any chronic medical condition? Are you on medication for any type of mental health condition? When did this start? I mean, you're married now. Did this happen when you guys were dating? How long has this been happening? When it started happening, exactly what was going on in your life? Were there any changes? Did you have surgery? There's so much information that we do not have, right? And so I can only provide like a super general response, and hopefully it'll still provide her and all of you the new information that we need to make the deposit in our wellness toolbox. Alana says it sounds like a GI doctor is needed. Absolutely. And so one of the things that I want to say is we need to rule out all medical issues. There was a time where I feel like my business partner and I almost put ourselves out of business. For 6 months, we wanted individuals to go and get a total blood workup and get a vitamin workup as part of their regular, CBC or whatever that's called when you go and get your blood drawn. And so not all the time are the doctors testing for the vitamin levels. And so for 6 months, we just wanted to try out, what that looks like. People are coming in, they're complaining of depression and anxiety and mood instability, being angry one moment and happy another, and all types of things. And I'm telling you, about 85% of the time, people were coming back, women coming back with major, major vitamin D deficiencies that presented itself like depression. They would leave the doctor with like 60,000 milligram dose of vitamin D for 2-3 weeks or whatever have you. And so we have to make sure, especially as psychotherapists, that we are making sure that we're ruling out medical conditions before we start treating someone. And so I would definitely recommend for this woman, if you haven't already, to see your doctor. Talk about the discomfort. Talk about when it happens. It's very, very important that you do that. I was watching I think it was like a Dr. Oz show, and it was on a woman who calls into Dr. Oz to talk about how she orgasms when she has a bowel movement. And so if the bowel movement was a big bowel movement, that she would literally have an orgasm while pushing. And one of the things that Dr. Oz said is those nerve endings that are assigned or attached to the intestinal tracts, and the nerve endings that are part of our genitalia, that sometimes it's kind of close, and something may have happened that created this connection with them while she's having this bowel movement. And so it's not completely unheard of. And so, but it's important to make sure that we are ruling out medical conditions before we just declare that we're crazy or weird or nobody else is like this or I'm just like super psychotic. We need to make sure that we are ruling out medical conditions. Alana says, and I think the husband deserves a gold star for trying to make her feel okay about it. That is exactly what I think. That is a lot to deal with. I mean, I'm a very visual person. And so my visuals are like all over the place right now, but gold star to hubby. And we're going to talk about hubby in a second. So when I read this though, and I want you guys to listen to this, when I read this question, it reminded me of a client that I had about 10 years ago. I used to see her she had bipolar disorder with psychotic features, and she also had a secondary diagnosis of borderline personality disorder. And she had a severe history of trauma. And so she was sexually abused by her father for about 6 years. And it really caused her to become very, very sick. And so after a few years into the abuse, she learned of ways to protect herself. And one of the things that she would do is poop on herself. She would defecate on herself when she knew he'd be coming into the room to have intercourse with her. And so fast forward into her adult years, after being in, being hospitalized multiple times, being committed to the state hospital several times. Here she is an adult, she's healing, she gave her life to Christ, she was doing really well, entered into this super healthy relationship with a man. And when they became sexually active, I'm assuming it was after marriage, I can't remember right now, so many years ago, she would have this same response during sex. And one of the things that we found was that she was in her trauma brain. It was her trauma brain, this survival mechanism that she used, this survival skill that she used to protect herself as a child. Her body was still responding in the same way. And so trauma response is very much like that. So a lot of times when we're dealing with individuals that have a trauma history, we say that they're acting in their trauma brain. That means that it's fight or flight. You have to protect yourself. We have to run. We have to make sure that we're sustaining your life. That's the trauma response. And one of the things that's important dealing with trauma patients or trauma victims is helping them to change their mind about what they consider not safe, and to get out of AutoZone, get out of that trauma response and understand that, you know what, this is a safe space. And so it took many years of treatment to try to get her to a place where she was associating sex with safety. Associating sex with safety, because for so long sex was a dangerous thing and her body was still responding in that trauma brain. The reason why I'm bringing that up is because, again, we don't know the history for this writer, but I definitely want you to, if anything that I just said kind of connects with your experience or something that you have dealt with, then get treatment. Get treatment. There is treatment out there to address the trauma, to get you to a place where you are not constantly operating in AutoZone in your trauma brain and considering things that are safe, unsafe. And so again, if this bears any type of witness with you, if you think that this is something that may be a part of your psyche that you need to address, then please get treatment, get therapy to overcome the trauma that may be unresolved. Another thing when I read this was anxiety, an anxiety response. So often when individuals are coming in for help with anxiety or overcoming their, or trying to get to a place where they're minimizing or extinguishing their panic attacks, a lot of the times during panic attacks, people are urinating on themselves and sometimes defecating on themselves. I have treated women that have had anxiety issues and anxiety flare-ups before sex and during sex. And so helping to kind of understand what the thought process is that is igniting this response, what are those associations that are causing this anxiety that you are experiencing before, during, and sometimes after sex was very important. Really exploring those thoughts, exploring how safe it is, exploring the dynamics of the relationship, and so much more. And so when we're dealing with anxiety, which I don't necessarily think that's the case here, and the reason why I don't is because she is saying that she's orgasming, like she's actually experiencing the climax, and that's a very intense state of relaxation, right? And so that point where you are experiencing orgasm, your body is going through intense, is going through this huge state of intensity that goes straight into a state of relaxation. That's what happens right at the point of climax. And so because she's saying she's having an orgasm, makes me rule out that this may be an anxiety response. But it's important just for me to share with you guys that individuals who experience high levels of anxiety that's affecting their ability to perform sexually and to be intimate with the ones that they love, we have to address those thought processes, those automatic thoughts that are in there, whether you're, thoughts that you are aware of. A lot of the times it's those thoughts that we are not aware of, those thoughts that are in our subconscious and sometimes our unconscious that have a lot of power, and making sure that we're bringing those thoughts to the forefront and teaching people how to reframe those automatic thoughts, bring it to your awareness and reframing them so that they do not have that type of negative power and impact on our day-to-day. And so dealing with that and taking a look at different practical things that we can do for people, like mindful breathing. This is when you are being very, very conscious of not breathing from your chest, but breathing through your stomach, making sure that when you're breathing in through your nose, your stomach is expanding really big on that inhale. Blowing out very, very slowly, like if you're blowing into a balloon. And feeling that stomach contract all the way in. And really being mindful of what that feels like when you're doing it. And taking that big breath again and filling up that stomach. Being mindful of how that feels and blowing out nice and slow through the mouth and making that stomach go back in again. Doing that for about 60 breaths. Relaxing, assuring that you are bringing your partner into this experience too. Some massaging, making sure that you're very mindful of sensory input in the room, like what you're smelling and what you're hearing, and all things geared toward promoting that relaxation for high anxious people who are, again, having difficulty engaging in that sexual experience because of their heightened anxiety. And just, again, making sure that your partner is a part of that process, that they can also use, that they can help guide the transition into a more relaxed place by using a smooth voice and making sure that they learn the skills to help their loved one to relax. That's very important as well. We can make this all part of the foreplay, where as we're doing this deep breathing, you could do progressive relaxation, which is just basically a tightening of your muscles to the point of discomfort and then slowly releasing. You can start from your head and bring it all the way down to your feet. You can start from your feet, work your way all the way way up to your head. However you do it, you can have your partner do it with you, walk you through, talk you through. And once we get that relaxation going, we can start to kind of access and touch those erogenous zones. Make sure that you know what those are, because it's so much more than your genitalia. Learning what those areas are and using feathers and creams and really accessing those erogenous zones. And so really allowing and taking the time to address the anxiety so that people who love one another can engage in intimacy and overcome that anxiety. For some people, they take medicine, they take medication, and while I think it should be the very last step and making sure that you're addressing lesser restrictive alternatives, for some people, it is what they need. There are individuals who do acupuncture, and they know that, in order for me to be able to engage and be intimate with my husband or intimate with my wife, I need a session with acupuncture. They'll get a massage, they'll get acupuncture. They do what they need to do to assure that they can be at a more relaxed state so that they're able to engage. I don't know if this person has an anxiety disorder or any type of anxiety issues, because again, we need more information. But this is also a part of just kind of assessing all the different possibilities. Now, she's coming to me. I'm not a doctor. I am not a medical doctor, so I can only provide a psychotherapeutic response. And so when someone is dealing with this and they have ruled out all medical, like the doctors don't know what to say and they've ruled it completely out, then the only thing that I can do is just assess those things, like where's that emotional injury and why is it manifesting that way? Is there unresolved trauma that we have to deal with? Are we looking at an anxiety issue and a manifestation of anxiety playing in that sexual experience? That is what I can do. Another piece that we can talk about is just being practical, right? So let's say we've ruled out all medical, we have ruled out all emotional issues. We can be practical. So let's talk about what those practical things are. Help me. I'm thinking about some practical things like maybe not eating or timing your meals in a schedule where you kind of know it. And see, it's really hard for me because everyone has a different perspective. I did a live with a man the other day and I was talking about the importance of spontaneity, and he was like, you can still be spontaneous and schedule sex. And I'm like, no, I need to be spontaneous. I'm just different perspectives. He's a doctor, Dr. Quebec Loken out in Arizona, and love him and what he's doing. And so, it may take away from that spontaneity because it really will require that you time your meals. Like you may not want to have a 8-piece meal from Popeyes if you know you're going to be intimate in an hour. Help me, guys. Like I'm trying to think of some practical ways to address it. So timing your meals, an enema to make sure that you're clearing your system out before engaging in that sexual experience with your husband. Let's see. Being mindful of the positions. How about that? Being mindful of the positions that are being used. There are some positions that place more pressure on your abdomen, and just being mindful of those positions and maybe trying to avoid it if you didn't have the time to clear your bowels and, enema, cleanse, make sure you didn't eat for 4 hours prior. I'm not sure, right? But, just, being practical, about it. But again, there are certain positions that place more pressure on the abdomen that would increase your chances of defecating or even urinating. There are people that really have poor control over their bowels, and so being mindful of that. So this is where maybe being on top and other positions like laying on your side, it kind of takes that pressure off of your abdomen. These are just, again, practical things that you can do to address it. Alana says, makes sense. I need more. Who's on here? I feel like I'm at a loss. There's so much that I don't know. And I'm hoping that this new information is helping, that this information is helping. Again, it may not be the answer, but I'm hoping that it is enough to add to your wellness toolbox. I want to say though, because there's a part where the questioner, the person who writes in says, my husband says that it bothers me more than it does him, but I do not believe him. And I just want to talk about like when we allow our own personal thoughts and beliefs, when we allow it to become the thoughts and beliefs of other people. We got to be really careful with that, because then you can shape a reality that's completely distorted because you are putting on or putting off your feelings and what you feel about a situation or your perception and putting that onto somebody else. And that's not fair. So when you're saying, he's saying, he's not bothered by this. Well, you actually didn't say he's not bothered. You said that he says that it bothers you more than him. But assuming that he's dealing with it, that would mean to me that your discomfort is more your thing than his. And I'm speaking to women. We have to stop doing that to the men that we love. You're not feeling good about yourself, so you're assuming he's not feeling good about you. You're not happy with your body, you're assuming he doesn't. We got to take ownership of our thoughts. We have to take ownership of our belief system, as corrupted and distorted as they are, right? And they're yours. Let's not put them on to other people. And so if this is a man that's saying, I love you, I want to be intimate with you, the fact that you are keeping yourself or blocking our intimacy in that way, because intimacy could be so many different things, but blocking sex because of the way that you feel is not fair to him. It's not fair to anybody to take your own personal thoughts and belief system and put it on them and assume that that's the way they feel or that's the way they think. It is not fair. Take ownership for yours and just consider the fact that maybe he is okay with it. Maybe he loves you that much that he is okay with it. And if there's a solution, I'm sure that he would want to find that solution so that you would feel more comfortable. But to assume that he's lying and put your own personal discomfort on him is unfair. Let's take ownership of how we believe, what we believe and what we think. So, hello, Bree. Thank you so much for joining. Alana says, shoot, he might feel even more of a man that he made you respond so uncontrollably. You know what? This is perspective is everything. Right there. Alana just changed the perspective. That you're thinking he's like, oh my gosh, this is so gross and so stank and so whatever. That's what you think. And on the other hand, this man is like, I got this woman so lit. Right, Alana? I got this woman so lit that she is responding so uncontrollably in this way. It's all about perspective. It is all about perspective. I just had this conversation with someone the other day. I remember when I was so motivated to lose weight. I was at Florida State and someone told me about the Atkins diet and I was like, oh, I'm all in. I'm cutting all carbs. I'm doing the Atkins. And every time when I hit that 2-week mark, I'm like lightheaded. I'm like shaky. I'm like, this is crazy. This is not working for me. I stopped. I would try again. Same thing. Stop, try again. I was like, this is just not working for me. Months later, I'm like watching this show, right, on the Atkins, and it talks about the process of kurtosis and what that's like and what it feels like. And this is when you are like maximize, your body's in full fat burning mode, and your body goes into some type of starvation or whatever it is, and it starts to break down those fat cells. And I'm like, oh, that's actually supposed to happen. And so when I went back into the Atkins diet, guess what? I had a different perspective. All of a sudden, the pain felt good because I understood that there was an outcome, that there was a light at the end of the tunnel, that the pain and the discomfort was, drum roll please, necessary. The pain and the discomfort was, drum roll please, necessary. We need to change our minds about undesired outcomes. Change our minds. Change the perspective. That was good, Alana. I want to talk about counseling very quickly. You have conflict. You're feeling this way. You really don't want to have sex anymore. It's causing intimacy issues. Your husband wants to connect with you that way. Counseling is such a powerful way to navigate through conflict. I don't know about you, but I have a birth certificate, and attached to my birth certificate there was nothing attached, actually. There was no manual attached on how to navigate conflict. And so sometimes we need that help. In therapy, we can address those unmet expectations, those deep-rooted emotions and thoughts and level of dissatisfaction. And we're talking about caring, that's meeting the needs of the people that you love, being able to openly discuss those needs and making sure that we have commitments from the people that we love to meet those needs. Counseling is a very powerful process. And so here you are, you're in a situation, you want to be intimate with your husband, you want to overcome these uncomfortable things. Go to counseling. Allow yourself to walk and work through the conflict and get to a place of resolution. A lot of the times these issues that people get divorced over are reparable. They're reparable. This question is not an irreparable situation. It can be addressed. And so understand that withholding sex from your husband is not resolution. As a matter of fact, I can only imagine that it will make the situation worse. We have to stop engaging in things, decisions, and actions that exacerbate the problem. That cannot be the resolution. We need to all be committed in our day-to-day lives to lead solution-focused lives. I want everybody to say that. I lead a solution-focused life. Let me hear you say that. I lead a solution-focused life. Can I hear you say that? I lead a solution-focused life. It's about that. And it's so bad because that's how I lead my life that it's almost it can work against me, because when we're having this conversation, I know that we don't need to sit here and talk for 2 hours. Let's get to the solution. So what do you want to do about it? What do you want to do? What's your expectation? How can we make this work? Please, I talk for a living, and sometimes I don't want to talk. What's the solution? I lead a solution-focused life. Thank you, Alana. Yes. And the last thing that I want to say as we come to a close is this. I believe it was after Kobe passed, and I had done a live and I talked about our stories and how sometimes we will lead and live our lives so broken, so discouraged, so unhappy because the story did not play out the way we expected that story. And sometimes when I think about that, there's a reality in my life that I never really expected would be a part of my story. And that is my father's Parkinson's disease. It makes no sense to me till this day, Alana, till this day, Charles, till this day, Bree, till this day, TJ Legacy, till this day, Carla. Do I accept it? That's a whole different story, because then I'll start preaching about acceptance. But I just never knew that that would be a part of my story. I knew that there would be a time when I would be caregivers to my parents, but I never expected this to be a part of my story. And there are people that would lead just broken and depressed lives because their lives it doesn't match up or align with what they expected their story to be. We have to get to a point where we take our story, we make the best of our story and assure that we continue to live and thrive regardless of the discrepancy. We have to learn to live and thrive, right? It's inevitable that we will one day die, but it's not given that we will all live. That is a choice. And here we are in this situation where this is really not cool. I don't know what's going on with this. And hopefully it's something that can be fixed through your doctor. It could be something that can be fixed through counseling. If it's a trauma response, some of the things that we discuss, that can be fixed. If you just need to be more practical and that works, like, oh my God, the enema works. So this is what I'll do. I'll take an enema, every Friday when I know we're going to have date night and be intimate. I don't know. Hopefully it does. But if it doesn't, take those lemons, add some honey to those lemons, and we are going to make lemonade. And we're not going to question why the story didn't turn out the way we expected. When you maximize your power, right? Making sure you maximize your power. What is power? Power is the capacity that we have to influence outcomes in the earth. When you've done all that, when you have operated in power, you've been responsible, you've done all that you can do in the natural, take those lemons, add some ice and some honey, sip on that lemonade, and just accept the fact that, you know what? While this was not the story that I wanted, I'm still choosing to live. And so I encourage you, listener, to get the help that you need, get the support that you need, get the guidance that you need. These issues are reparable. Love, love, love your husband. It sounds like you have an amazing man. I think any man that would continue to want to be intimate with a woman that defecates during that process is a pretty accepting man. So love on your husband. Don't doubt his love for you. Don't doubt his acceptance of you. It sounds like he's accepting all of you. So embrace it. We women have to stop pushing away these amazing men that just want to love the hell out of us. Yeah? All right. So I hope this was good to you, Facebook. I hope this was good to you, Instagram. Thank you so much for tuning in to another weekly Ask Schellie segment. Feel free to connect with me at info@askschellie.com. You can visit with me at www.askschellie.com. I'm on Instagram as Ask Schellie. I'm on Facebook as Ask Schellie. Schedule your next appointment, 407-350-5070. Thank you for your support of Ask Schellie Consulting LLC. I'll see you next Tuesday at 12. Thank you, Facebook.